Good evening, everybody. Welcome into the latest summer edition of the Milford Informer. I am your host, Tim Coet. We hope everyone is continuing to enjoy the terrific summer weather. We're happy to be back with you for this edition of the Informer. We continue on our summer schedule for this next month. We will return to weekly editions starting in September. We've got a full show to bring you this evening, so let's get right to our top stories rundown. Tonight, hear the conclusion of our sit-down with Massachusetts Office of Consumer Affairs Chief of Staff Greg White as he discusses the details on some of the most infamous fraud schemes impacting the state. Also tonight, Claflin Hill Director Paul Serpine takes us on a tour of the sights and sounds of Family Night at the Bandstand held over at Town Park. And also tonight, we'll take you inside Town Hall to hear the latest update on the status of the local MWRTA bus transportation system. As we told you on our previous edition, we will get to the conclusion of our interview with the Office of Consumer Affairs this week. Earlier in the summer, we discussed the various ways individuals can fall victim to identity theft. In the conclusion of our interview, Office of Consumer Affairs Chief of Staff Greg White discusses some of the top fraud schemes that, if not properly identified, could end up costing you thousands of dollars.
One of the areas that our co-ops field questions in are the scams that are taking place out there. And most of them folks have been aware of for years. The most common is the IRS scam, which I'm sure you've heard of.
Of course.
You know, we recently learned that there's a group operating out of Seattle, Washington, and we've had people within our own agency that have been called on that. And
so this is essentially, you'll get a phone call either on your cell phone or
Yep.
on your home phone, and it will be someone posing as an IRS official, and they're asking you for money, saying that you owe money.
Basically, they're saying that you are subject to criminal prosecution, that you owe back taxes, and you need to contact this number. And when you contact the number, there'll be an individual on the line who's going to attempt to retrieve some information from you and get you to commit to wiring $5,000. And you know, the reality is the IRS doesn't operate that way. They don't make phone calls. So when in doubt, pick up the phone. You know, but it's amazing how many folks, especially the elderly, will become victim of that type of scam. The grandparent scam, I'm sure you're familiar with that. Again, our information is everywhere. What they'll do is they'll go online and they'll learn about grandparents' family, their grandchildren are studying abroad, learn a little bit about the school and whatnot, and then they'll reach out to that individual and they'll say that, you know, we're calling from this country. We recently had one in which the family member received a call from Europe saying that their grandson had been detained and that they needed to wire, you know, $5,000 to post the bond. One of our officials at the Office of Consumer Affairs had his mother-in-law receive a call. Her grandson was studying down in Atlanta. And again, they said he had been detained and you need to wire. So she went to the local Western Union. And fortunately, there was a individual behind there who fortunately, they're properly trained and they're told to identify situations like this. And he said, you know, ma'am, I'd like to take your money, but this is a scam. So she left that store and she went to another entity and they took the money and she lost $5,000. So, wow. I mean, it's been around for years, but the reality is people are still being victimized by it. And then you have the fake lottery scam, which again has been around for years. Recently, the Boston Globe published an article about a group of individuals who have been victimized by the scam, one of which was an individual who lost thousands of dollars. Basically, he had been approached by 3 separate entities saying that he had won the lottery, and all he had to do is pay the taxes. And then he received another call from a fourth entity who said, listen, we understand that you just won 3 lotteries. By law, you can't collect them, more than one in any given calendar year. But if you join our association, we'll enable you. And he lost thousands of dollars. So if it's too good to be true, in all likelihood it is.
Sure, it's such an important rule of thumb, it seems like it comes down to. And really, listening to all of these different stories, I'm sure that there are people out there who think to themselves, well, identity theft maybe targets one age group more than another, whether it's older folks who maybe leave their password vulnerable online, or a younger crowd who maybe trusts a public Wi-Fi signal or trusts leaving their information accessible on a public terminal. But really, the way these scams unfold, it seems like everyone really could be a target at any time.
Absolutely. I mean, short of getting rid of your credit cards and your ATM cards and just dealing in cash and not going on online. Again, the reality is it's not a question of if your information is going to be compromised. It's a question of when and how many times. And there's certain things that the banks have put into place, the chip and PIN that protects the information. But just as we were talking about before the show, just when you get a level of protection, they find a way to circumvent it.
Right.
So we advise consumers just to use common sense and learn to protect your information. The other thing I wanted to mention is that we've come up, and I brought a few for you, Tim. Those are protective sleeves. You put your credit card in there. What they'll do is, in addition to using these devices in ATM machines and gas pumps, they will approach people at bus terminals, train station, malls, and whatnot with skimming devices. And what they'll do is rub up against you, and they'll capture all your information. By putting the credit card in these sleeves, it protects the information. The other thing we came up with is this protective sleeve for passports. Since 2007, there's a chip in your passport with all your personal information. Again, they'll swipe up against you.
I'm sure there's a lot of people who don't even realize that.
They don't, and yet it goes on all the time. So those can be very helpful. Lastly, this scam may or may not be something you're aware of. Have you heard of the One Ring scam?
I'm not sure I have.
Okay, all right. I hadn't until recently, until I became a victim of it. What they'll do is they will call you from one of the Caribbean nations, and they'll have your cell phone, and they'll let it ring once, and then they'll hang up. And most people can't get to the ring in one take, and so they'll, out of curiosity, call back. They'll keep you on the line. The longer they have you on the line, they'll ring up a outrageous phone bill. And it's a group operating around the world, and it's called the One Ring scam. So if you don't recognize the number, let them call back.
Sure.
So those are the various types of identity thefts that our co-ops learn about day in and day out, as well as the various scams that are going on. And again, we advise consumers to protect your information, to change the passwords often, to invest in a paper shredder, and do your best to use common sense.
And obviously those are the great ways to try to manage yourself, to put yourself at as low a risk as possible. Should you realize that you've become a victim of identity theft, what are kind of the steps that you have to take there moving forward?
Well, you can reach out to local law enforcement. I was on a show not too long ago, and it was the chief of police, and he said, Greg, we get quite a few calls, and our hands are somewhat tied. Again, some of these folks are operating halfway across the world. But you can notify local law enforcement, cancel the credit card right away, notify the bank, and the bank will, in fact, reimburse you. And then you can go online and get a credit report. And you should monitor your credit report once a year. Recently, my wife and I were having some work done on our home, and the contractor, a person that worked for the contractor, learned of the office I was with, and we were talking about cybersecurity and identity theft, and she said, yeah, not too long ago, I went to refinance, and I got a copy of my credit report, and I learned that someone had obtained my information, and with my information had purchased a condominium in my name with my information and leased a brand new car. She said, but for that fact, apparently they had been making the payments, but when they defaulted, next thing you know, she's going to be receiving calls. So, but for the fact that she had gone on and gotten the credit report, she wouldn't have known about that. So.
And people can get a free credit report each year from one of the various organizations.
Exactly, you know, and we advise consumers that they should do it once a year at least, you know. And then you can put freezes on your credit through these credit agencies that protect your information going forward.
Well, that's, again, this is really valuable information for absolutely everybody out there in our viewing audience. If folks want to learn more about the particular work you're doing, how can they access that information?
We have two numbers. We have a toll-free number, which is 1-888-283-3757, and our local number of Boston is 1-617-973-8787. And again, we have 4 outstanding co-ops who will take the phone calls and attempt to answer your question. And if they can't, they'll direct you to the appropriate agency.
Well, Greg, we can't thank you enough. This is tremendous information, and it's a scary subject, no question about it, but it's important that people really learn, know what safeguards they can take, and know that if this ultimately does happen, there are avenues that they have from there. But again, we thank you so much for your time. We really thank you for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me, Tim, and I appreciate you having me on the show.
We thank Greg White for joining us in studio for that informative interview. We will have the complete interview available for viewing on our YouTube channel. And speaking of YouTube, we are happy to announce that we will now be uploading full editions of the Milford Informer. So if you can't tune in on Milford TV during one of our air times, you will now be able to watch the show in its entirety simply by going to our YouTube channel, My Milford TV, and clicking on our Milford Informer playlist. If you are one of the many local residents looking for any opportunity to be outside taking advantage of the summer season, Paul Serpine and the Claflin Hill Symphony have just the activity for you. Each summer, Claflin hosts Family Night at the Bandstand, a weekly outdoor music and social extravaganza held just down the road at Milford Town Park. Recently, our cameras made their way over to Family Night at the Bandstand to get an up-close look at this can't-miss summer experience.
It's another Tuesday night here at Milford Town Park, and we're getting set up and ready to hear another great concert. Tonight we have Brass Attack, which is being sponsored by Medway Oil and Propane. And this is, in answer to your question, the 21st consecutive season of Family Night at the Bandstand. The first year was 1996. And it actually was the beginning of what is Claflin Hill today, that people now have come to know as, you know, the Claflin Hill Symphony Orchestra and all the other things that we do, the chamber concerts, youth orchestra, and of course Family Night at the Bandstand. But it started right here in this park. Well, Brass Attack, I met this band actually through a fellow musician friend of mine, a composer, pianist, conductor, friend named Tom Hoynatsky, who has been a regular feature at Claflin Hill Symphony for years. One summer, Tom was playing keyboards with this band, and he had told me about them, said they were a really hot band. It's kind of like what we used to call a horn band. You know, like in the 70s, you had the band Chicago, you had Blood, Sweat, and Tears, you had Tower of Power. So that's basically what they are. They got a lot of brass guys and a rhythm section, and they do those kind of classic cover tunes of the 70s from those bands I just named. And it's headed up by a guy named Tom Prateruti. Most of them are from Rhode Island. But I regularly invite them to come back to Family Night at the Bandstand because they're really awesome. And the people love them, and they're great old tunes, you know. I walk out into the audience every concert saying hi to people, and you know, it's kind of neat because they're here for the concert. Their kids are running around all over the place having a great time. The people are talking to each other. There's all sorts of knots of friends and neighbors that all kind of just met up here at the park tonight. They brought their lawn chairs. Nellie's Sandwich Shop is over there behind you, getting ready to, cook up great family affordable park concert food, hot dogs, hamburgers, you name it, linguiça, which is what attracted me to it when I came to the dedication concert of the Bandstand years ago. It was like, you've got a basketball game going on here, you've got people playing tennis, you've got a concert, you've got people having a great summer time. And I used to play in New York City in a professional concert band back in the 80s, early 90s, where we played at Seaside Park in Brooklyn, which is at Coney Island, and we played at Lincoln Center, and all the outdoor park venues of New York City. So when I came here, it was like, wow, this is like being in Brooklyn again, So it's a neat atmosphere, and it's great to see people just coming out. Right now we're doing 8 concerts throughout the summer. We usually begin about the last Tuesday in June. Kind of basically when the kids are out of school, it's time to start the outdoor concerts. And then we run 8 weeks, and it depends on how the calendar. If a Tuesday falls on the 4th of July, we won't do a concert that week. But instead, this year it kind of all worked out pretty good. So we're doing 8 concerts, and we'll be running this through August 16th. Actually, August 23rd, because we're going to make up a concert that got rained out. And I have to say, the Boston Globe once called this the Cadillac of summer concerts, because we get the best bands, big bands. I mean, just the Claflin Hill Symphony Summer Winds, which appears 2 or 3 times in the season here. I mean, that's the 35-piece wind ensemble. You don't see that in other communities. They're all very nice concerts, but, we're running it as a real professional venue. Next week is the Fantasy Big Band, sponsored by Blair House of Milford. That's August 2nd. August 9th, Milford Federal is sponsoring a local rock star kind of world famous guy internationally, Mauricio Moraes, right here in Milford. He's really famous, especially in the Portuguese community, but him and his band Flash are coming. On August 16th, we're going to have the Claflin Hill Symphony Summer Winds, which would officially have been our season finale, but we're going to extend it one more week after that to August 23rd because school hasn't begun yet. And Jim Lagore and Zero Drift is going to come because they kind of got rained out of their week a couple weeks back. My kids grew up in this park as little kids going to concerts every week, I've actually seen, I think now, several generations of kids running through this park. It's a great thing to see people coming out, getting out of their cocoons, getting off the armchair and the TV and all the other social media apparatus that kind of seem to make us a sort of disenfranchised society. So, get out and enjoy the summer. I mean, we have 8 weeks and that's it. Then we'll be shoveling snow again. So get out here.
Over the last few weeks, the Milford Board of Selectmen have also been on a reduced summer schedule. During their most recent meeting held on July 25th, the board provided an update on the MWRTA bus transportation system, including a breakdown of the latest draft of the bus route and an update from Chairman Buckley on when the service might begin.
2 things were crucial to us. One is time, overall time for the route. Target is 1 hour or less. And the second, and I think the chief can talk to this also, but to try to minimize any traffic disruption downtown or otherwise. And the third thing was hopefully going through Carl, ease of use by our seniors, our younger people, and everybody in between. And that's why the forums are being held. That's why communication will be absolutely vital once this is up and going.
I want to go through the list. So I'm not going to talk about Mission Springs or Blandon Hub because those are exterior to the town connections. But I'll start at Quarry Square, Target.
Initially, they wanted to stop on Fortune Boulevard right at Target, where you're coming up over the hill from East Main Street in that direction. If that light's green, that's a bad accident. just waiting to happen. So we worked with them, and they had to add time to actually swing the bus into Target. So it is a convenience for seniors and others that are going to Target, but more importantly, it was the safety aspect of it.
East Main Street at Beach, at the Registry of Motor Vehicles, Milford Town Hall, Milford Senior Center, Southside Park Street Stop, Pheasant Run, EMK Community Health, that's the rehab, right?
Now, the Southside Park that's the post office. So
Okay.
they're gonna come up South Bow, cross onto Park, and right where the entrance to the driveway at the bank is,
Yeah.
that's the drop-off, because Park, trying to do it on Congress Street, one, we're gonna bog down Congress Street.
Yeah.
And then secondarily, we knew that we would be more disrupted. You can still get by, Parks are one way, you can still run a vehicle by the bus.
Sure, it's central to community banking for a lot of people that want to walk into one of the banks in that area. It's central to some of the
Post
insurance,
office,
attorney,
police station,
post office.
insurance,
You're right
attorney's
there.
offices.
And Park Street really isn't that busy a road,
Right.
even though
It's a
there,
cut-through, but
yeah.
it is wide enough to accommodate vehicles parked as well as the bus and a vehicle passing. They just have to do so safely.
Okay.
From there, it heads over to South Main.
Yeah, and then it goes Pheasant Run, EMK Community Health, Milford Hospital, Dana-Farber, Shaw's and Walgreens, Milford Courthouse and Reliant Medical, Milford High School, great idea. Hopefully young people will take advantage of this service as well. Colonial and Capitol Road Housing, Rolling Green, Claudette Street, Birmingham Court, Hannaford's Plaza, Cornerstone Senior Living, and Coles. So, look, we've said this is a pilot. We've tried to communicate to the community it's a pilot. I see us iterating through this process, refining it, that periodically we're going to review it. We're going to use the advisory board to better get a handle on it and make some recommendations so they come back to us. And the last things we're going to do before we implement any of those changes, we're going to get your feedback again. There's not a lot to execute right now, and I'm going to say for the benefit of the public and everybody here in the media that the August 1st go-live date is at great risk, if not nearly impossible. So, I've got to work with the MWRTA, but until the funding is secured and we have a better understanding, I think it would have been doable if it was executed in the first budget cycle. But now that it's a requirement for override, we may be looking at August 15th or some other date, and we'll have to communicate that and meet again to talk about that.
The Legion season is over, and we still have about a month to go before we begin our coverage of Milford High sports for the fall season. We do have one quick sports note to share with you, however. Last week it was announced that legendary Scarlet Hawks basketball coach Steve Manguso has been selected for the Massachusetts Basketball Coaches Association Hall of Fame. Coach Manguso will be honored as part of the Hall of Fame induction ceremonies coming up this fall. Last weekend, my fellow co-hosts and I from WMRC's The Sports Buzz had a chance to speak to Coach Manguso to get his reaction to this major honor.
Yeah, it's a great honor. I'm humbled by it. This is something for all my players. They all contributed, certainly more than I did. So, their hard work, their determination to get better and compete, it's just been a great ride. It really has. I've had a lot of players call me, and, it's fun. It's just, look, I'm as proud as, some of the teams, a few of the teams that didn't qualify, or some of the teams that, I really felt that together we really, squeezed every drop out of it. And that's really what it's about. We're all bound by, Craig Radcliffe, in the late 80s, I didn't know he was going to be 6'7". I didn't know, you knew he was going to be pretty good, but you didn't know how good. So, you just do your job and you just get better at your trade. This is my trade, coaching. I'm still not there yet. You still have to keep learning. I don't know everything, and anyone that thinks they do, you're going to stop learning. If you're a good teacher, I don't care if you're a kindergarten teacher, a first grade teacher, or a coach. If your curriculum is good and the way you handle people continues to get better, so, they're going to have a good experience, and that's what it's about.
Coming up on August 9th, the Milford Girl Scouts will be hosting a Chalk Day. Everyone is invited to join the Milford Girl Scouts to enjoy a morning of chalk drawing at the Milford Town Library. Girl Scouts who attend the event wearing their sash or vest will be eligible to win raffle prizes. Chalk Day is set to take place on Tuesday, August 9th, outside Milford Town Library from 9 to 10 a.m. For more information about the event or the Girl Scouts, you can contact Stephanie Comiskey via email at stephanie@comiskey.com. Attention incoming MHS freshmen, Milford High School will be hosting freshman orientation coming up on August 11th. Members of the class of 2020 are invited to meet inside the high school auditorium, where they will receive some valuable information and strategies for life as a high school student. Students will also receive their class schedule, and tours of the high school facility will also be offered. The MHS freshman orientation takes place on Thursday, August 11th. And coming up on August 20th, the Hopedale Unitarian Church invites local residents to enjoy a farm-to-table dinner. Enjoy a healthy, environmentally conscious full-course meal prepared with local, seasonal, and organic produce grown nearby, and meet the farmers who make it possible. The farm-to-table dinner is being held on Saturday, August 20th at the Hopedale Unitarian Church beginning at 6 p.m. Admission to the event is $35 per person. For more information or to make reservations, you can visit the website hopedaleunitarian.org and look under the Events tab. Before we close this edition of the show, we want to remind all of our viewers once again that we want to hear from you. If you know of an upcoming event in the greater Milford area, or you have an idea for a human interest piece, or if you want to shed some spotlight on a little-known local activity, please contact us here at the studio. You can call our main studio line, or you can contact me directly by sending an email to news@milfordtv.net. We thank you as always for tuning in, and from all of us here at Milford TV, this is Tim Coet saying have a great week. So long, everybody.